Whenever you put your chips at the center of a poker table in sports, it means that you believe that you're one of the top echelon teams capable of winning it all. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, their trade deadline activity would certainly lead one to believe just that. Dave Dombrowski has never been bashful when he believes that he is that one piece away from winning it all, and he's willing to mortgage the Phillies' future with the additions of Jhoan Duran and Harrison Bader, the haul they got from the Minnesota Twins, not to mention the additional pieces they got for an ever-improving bullpen. However, the recent struggles by the offense is reason for concern. However, with that being said, the Phillies are still one of the top teams capable of winning it all in October, and consequently, they're worth watching for sure. Meanwhile, the football equivalent in the city of brotherly love, the Eagles, have also established that championship culture, and this season will be about defending their crown of the best in football and seeing if they can repeat and build that ever-evolving dynasty that they so crave. My friend, it's a great time to be a Philadelphia sports fan, and it's a great time to put both the Phillies and the Eagles under review to see if both can rise to the level of that championship medal they'll be judged by this season and beyond. For some fair and objective analysis, I turn to my friend Devin Jackson, who happens to hold the title of the night sports editor for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Jackson's a veteran of the Philadelphia sports scene, and he's seen it all when it comes to both the Phillies and the Eagles, and he's the perfect person to help me put both teams under the microscope as we give them a fair and honest assessment of where they currently stand, how the bullpen additions will be a positive for the Phillies, and whether or not their offense can find enough mojo to compete deep into October. And as for the Eagles, it's all laid out for them to capture. The only question is, will they have enough energy and wherewithal, considering that they'll have a bullet and target on their back after winning the whole thing a year ago? Jackson certainly has some in-depth opinions on all of those subjects and so much more. So, lucky for all of us, my conversation about everything Philly sports with Jackson starts right now. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Devin, if you're ready, my friend, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm excited to talk everything Philadelphia sports with you this afternoon. Great to see you, and happy Thursday to you, buddy.
Yeah, happy Thursday to you as well. Yeah, Philly, the sports, it makes the city go round. So it's a full, thing and blends one sport into the other. Obviously, the focus right now is on baseball, but we're getting close to the NFL season, and the Eagles are the reigning Super Bowl champs. And then obviously they got the NBA schedule dropping later today as well. So Sixers 18 games late, and as of right now, they don't have any major games right now. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And if I told you that the Phillies pushed all their poker chips at the center of the poker table at the end of the trading deadline to improve their bullpen and their overall offense, my friend, what would be your response to that, my friend?
Yeah, I think that certainly getting Duran was a huge move at the deadline. Obviously, they added Harrison Bader, who I think will, I mean, obviously is going to factor into their future plans, but I don't know if him necessarily alone pushes them over the top. But I think pushing the chips in more is the look at the payroll and the people and the players that they have going up for potential free agency. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber, one of the league or the NL leaders in home runs this year. His contract is up end of the year. Bryce Harper's making a lot of money. Nick Castellanos, obviously JT Realmuto as well. He's on a potential guy to watch. Ranger Suarez. So they have a lot of guys that they're really good players, but can they perform outside like guys like Harper and Schwarber, who we know is going to deliver in the playoffs? But can those other guys do it? Can the outfield platoon with Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas and Harrison Bader, like I mentioned, Max Kepler, those guys, and Nick Castellanos as well. Those guys are going to be the main guys that people are looking at and see if they're going to perform when it comes time for the playoffs and can they produce runs? We saw over the last few nights against the Reds, the offense has really struggled. So I think for the Phillies, certainly the chips have been pushed in, but I think more so some of their core players as opposed to some of the moves that they made at the deadline. They did shore up their bullpen, but I think there's still questions, especially in the outfield, of the consistency of their bats.
Yeah, absolutely. And Devin, we know that Dave Dombrowski takes this aggressive approach when he thinks he's on the cusp of winning a World Series. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about going into the mind of the top brass of the organization, because this is certainly a track record for Dave Dombrowski, and if it doesn't work out, then the Phillies really have to make a decision, as you said, about the future of the franchise. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Dombrowski, especially in spring training, and I got to give credit to our writers Scott Lauber and Lachlan March. They've been all over this, but Dombrowski has said a few times now that he wants his trophy back, alluding to the World Series trophy that they last won in 2008. So certainly he's going to bring an aggressive approach. He wants to make this team a team that gets over the hump. Obviously, the Phillies made their surprise run to the World Series in 2022, fell short in 2023 in LCS after having I believe a 3-1 lead in the series or a 3-2 lead. And then obviously last year's first round exit in a division series. So I think for the Phillies, this is another year where what they do in the postseason is going to really determine. They've had regular season success and they've been able to win games, come from behind fashion. I think they have 30 wins coming from behind this year. But in the playoffs, you got to be able to produce and put yourself in good position. There's pitching ace with Zach Wheeler and Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, Aaron Nola's coming back soon. And then Alec Bohm as well on the batting side is coming back soon. So certainly they look like they'll be healthy by the time the playoffs come around. But yeah, I think with Dombrowski, it's all in for the playoffs specifically in finding success once again and being able to get over the hump.
Yeah, and when we look at their trading deadline acquisitions, whether it's Harrison Bader or the additions they made to the bullpen, Devin, tell me which do you think will be most impactful going through the rest of this season and then ultimately into the playoffs, buddy?
I think Duran's acquisition from the Minnesota Twins is the most impactful because the Phillies really haven't had a reliable reliever in a few seasons now. Last year, they tried to do kind of a by committee approach, but when the time came, they obviously struggled. I know they traded for Carlos Estevez last year at the deadline. He didn't exactly work out in the playoffs. They had a number of other players as well that just couldn't get them over the hump. But having Duran, I think, sets the bullpen. They're not going to have Jose Alvarado after he tested positive for performance enhancing drug, 80-game suspension. He's coming back soon, but ineligible for the playoffs. So I think with Duran, he sets their bullpen, have them set up, and all those guys ready to go with Orion, Kirkering, and Matt Strom being the guys setting them up for the ninth inning. So having that reliable closer to combat or to add to an already stellar starting pitching rotation, and then Taiwan Walker, he probably will be a middle inning guy when it comes around for the playoff time. I think they're well set to have a really good pitching staff going into the playoffs. But certainly with Harrison Bader, I think it just adds another potential bat in the postseason, and gives them some flexibility if one guy isn't doing too well, and potential matchups as well. Maybe you want Bader in for right-handed pitchers. Brandon Marsh for left-handed pitchers, Max Kepler left-handed pitchers. So they got a lot of mix and matching on the batting side. But I think getting Duran is the biggest acquisition for sure.
Yeah, and when we look at where the Phillies stack up in their division after the moves that they made, I'm curious, do you think that they're the preeminent team in the division, or do you think they'll have some competition moving forward?
I think they're the preeminent team in the division right now. As it stands right now, as a enter the kind of the day. Right now, NL East have a 5-game lead in the NL East division. So it seems like they're trending in the right way to potentially winning the division again. The Mets have really struggled as of late, and they obviously have a big payroll as well, but things haven't just been going their way, and they struggle on the road specifically too. They just haven't been able to win on the road as consistently as the Phillies have been able to do, who are 2 games over 500 on the road, which is one of the best marks in the National League. So that matters, especially in the playoffs. You got to be able to go into opposing teams, stadiums and win those games. But I think for the Phillies, they've shown the ability to obviously defend home turf, which they've been really good at over the last couple of years in these runs. But winning on the road and winning those divisional games, I think, has really made the difference for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Devin, I'm also curious to ask you about Bryce Harper's impact around the league, and certainly with the labor negotiations coming up, and what he had to say about the commissioner when he brought up the idea of a salary cap. I'm wondering your thoughts as the league trends towards an uncertain future, and the impact that you think Bryce Harper will have as the league goes through labor negotiations, buddy.
Yeah, I think that Harper made his stance pretty clear to the commissioner. I think the players are not in favor of the salary cap, just based on what you can see and kind of the ongoing talks about it. And I just think right now, obviously baseball is the only major sport not to have a salary cap. So it's kind of interesting to see this unfold. Obviously, it's very developing, and they want to get something done, I think, before the 2026 season. But we'll see what all happens there. But yeah, I think the stance has been made pretty clear for Bryce Harper and the MLBPA. So it'll be interesting to see how things shake up, and if we end up having a lockout after the 2026 season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, what was your initial thoughts when you saw the Bryce Harper comments? My friend, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I think, knowing how closely that, RB writers got to know, Bryce Harper the last couple of years, not super surprising, when he's something he wants to speak up on and talk about, he's going to make it known. And, obviously it getting out there, he didn't love that it got out there, but I think it shows that, he may not be, the MLBPA president or the big name, when those negotiations happen. But he certainly will stand his ground, and he's always been like that as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And Devin, just before we move on to the Eagles, I wanted to ask you about Rob Thompson and his maturation as the leader of the Phillies from a managerial perspective, and how you think he's really grown into the role since replacing Joe Duran, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think for him, it's been stepping up in the leadership aspect and being able to truly manage a lot of the day-to-day operations of managing stars. You know, they have a really big payroll, some really big personalities, and being able to make some of the tough decisions. Obviously, like this year they have changed up quite a bit. They've kind of resisted pulling up maybe some of their minor league players and Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford, who have been talked about a lot, within the Phillies organization as guys that they see value in, but not rushing their development. And I think mostly the biggest thing is allowing guys to work through their issues. You know, Brandon Marsh was struggling earlier this year, and he's really been thriving, really since then, and really since post All-Star break, he's found his stride. Obviously, Bryce Harper had a little bit of a slump. He was out on the injured list for a little bit. Obviously, they've been without Aaron Nola, who has struggled this year, but they've been without him since May 15th. And I think that the biggest compliment you give to Rob Thompson is keeping this team together. I remember they were, 3, 4 games back of the Mets, and now things have flipped. And they really, since the All Star break, as opposed to last year when they struggled coming out of the All Star break, they've really been hitting their stride and bringing in Duran has been big for them. I mean, I think he's been able to embrace change and be able to do things differently, and not just being stubborn and sticking to his own ways. So I think you see that he has confidence in his roster, and I think just for him, he's grown in the strategies that he's employed for the Phillies over the course of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Devin, as we transition to the Eagles, I'm curious to ask you, coming up a Super Bowl, how would you classify a benchmark for a team and overall success as they look to defend their title this year, my friend? What are your thoughts on the benchmarks the Eagles should set as we go into the upcoming season?
Yeah, another deep playoff run. They have a lot of their core back and a lot of their key players back, and they have seemingly, I don't want to say, upgraded, but they certainly have maintained a lot of the talent that they had last year. Obviously, some things are going to be new. One being a new offensive coordinator. They're going to have some new pieces on the offensive line after losing Mekhi Becton. Tyler Steen is going to step up, and then Landon Dickerson is nursing an injury that he just had surgery on. So I think their depth is going to be tested, but certainly with the Eagles, really since that 2022 season, every year is expectation is to make it to the Super Bowl and make it to the big game. But I think a benchmark for success is making it back to the NFC Championship game. Honestly, we know how teams tend to struggle coming off of Super Bowl runs, and obviously the Chiefs have been the exception. The Patriots in the past have been an exception. But in the NFC side, we haven't seen that much consistency where the same team is making it year in and year out in the NFC Championship game, at the very least, and nonetheless, even the Super Bowl. So I think the expectations are always sky high with the Eagles, and I think anything less than making to the NFC Championship game will probably be viewed as a disappointment.
Yeah, and I wanted to also ask you about the evolution of the running back position because obviously when Saquon Barkley signed with the Eagles, he sort of reset the market and the value for running back. So I'm curious about whether you think the running back position is now a valued position again in football, and how would you measure a continued advancement for Saquon Barkley himself? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, I think that the running back position, the valuation has always fluctuated over the years, but I think just overall, I think that is obviously essential in the NFL to have not only a running back that can be kind of that big piece and be relied on in the running game, but also can contribute in the passing game and be in multi-dimensional. So I think that's where you see some of maybe the valuation of like Saquon Barkley, what he's been able to do. Christian McCaffrey, when he's healthy, he's obviously battled with injuries the last few years, but at his peak, he was really dynamic. Derrick Henry to a lesser degree as a receiver, but the impact that he has in the run game has been immense for the Ravens. We just saw James Cook for the Bills get a big payday recently. So guys that can have multiple skill sets and can provide value for NFL offense. I think they're always going to be valued, but it just depends on what number. And I think in recent years, well, obviously with Barkley winning the Offensive Player of the Year, and Derrick Henry doing so in the past. Same thing with Christian McCaffrey. You're seeing kind of the reemergence of this era. Obviously, a lot of expectations for Ashton Genty, the former Boise State running back, now with the Raiders. He's going to have a lot of expectations to follow up on that and be kind of a key piece for the Raiders. But yeah, we see that the running back position is back in the prominent era, and Bijan Robinson from the Falcons is another player that is really rising up and potentially going to be the next on that mantle, is a guy that is multidimensional running back that can really impact the game in multiple ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And Devin, can I ask you about Nick Sirianni and whether you think he's been underappreciated or undervalued around the league? When you win a Super Bowl, obviously your stature is elevated, but in some senses, I think Nick Sirianni might be undervalued as a head coach. Would you agree with that, my friend?
I'll say yes and no. I think partly he doesn't have a great reputation maybe around the league because he's not an offensive mind guru. He's not a defensive, scheme artist. Like he's not this guy that you can really prop up and be like he's one of the best scheme guys in here. He's one of the best. The people who command the room. I think what he does is that he knows himself best, and he knows the right buttons to push for this talented Eagles team. And I think, yeah, you have a lot of talent and you have a lot of expectations every year, and it seems like it's a no-brainer that you should eventually win the Super Bowl and come through. But I think also his willingness to maybe change his ways, because he came in originally being the play caller. When he was first brought into the Eagles, obviously that wasn't working for him, and we saw him hand off to Shane Steichen, who helped them make it to the Super Bowl in 2022, and then went to the Colts in 2023. And I think mostly he doesn't get enough credit for the turnover that he's had in his coordinators, and still been able to adapt and find ways to win at the highest level. So I think that's where he is underappreciated. Is his consistency of winning. Made the playoffs every single year that he's been the coach. And, he just find ways to win. It can be ugly, it can be not the most aesthetically pleasing, but, and all that matters is that you win in NFL, and that's what matters most. It doesn't matter how you do it, the formula that happens, but you just find a way to win. And I think that's the biggest credit you can give to him, is that he's won every single year with the Eagles, had a winning season, and has made the playoffs every single year too.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we look at what the Eagles did in the offseason, whether it be a trade they made or a free agent pickup or in the draft, what do you think is going to be the most impactful move that they've made this offseason that will propel them into next year, my friend?
Yeah, I think right now, I think they're going to make probably another move soon. It just seems like the second corner spot is still up for grabs right now, and obviously they traded for Jacorian Bennett like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and he hasn't gotten really any game action yet. He will this weekend, but I'll just go with Jahad Campbell. I think that was a big swing for them, in a position that they didn't previously value. Howie Roseman has really changed his mindset and how valuable linebackers are, and a lot of that can be traced to Vic Fangio and how he values the linebacker position. We saw what Zach Bond did last year, becoming an All-Pro. In really his first year starting serious snaps on a NFL defense. But Jahad Campbell, getting him in the building, getting him on Vic Fangio's defense, and being a potential impact player for the Eagles as a rookie, I think it was one of the big moves that they made this year. It took a big swing. Obviously, he had a shoulder injury coming into the draft, but he's back already, and he's doing some good things already. So I think Jahad Campbell will be my pick, and the potential most impactful offseason thing that they did this year.
And he was a steal in the draft because he kept falling, and Howie Roseman has a propensity to find those diamonds in the rough, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah, he does.
Absolutely. Buddy, can I ask you quickly about Jalen Hurts and his involvement as a leader and how, what do you think is the recipe for him to take the next step this season?
Yeah, I think just being able to just make quicker decisions in the pocket and being able to kind of minimize the hits that he takes. I think it's a kind of a give and take when you have a quarterback that's mobile and dynamic as a runner. And he obviously has a really great deep ball and great weapons downfield. But I think defenses are going to challenge him, especially to be a guy that has to throw on those third downs to move the chains. And he's shown that ability to do so, but I think the consistency level of that, being able to do that, and just being able to continue to command the Eagles offense and understand that, he can't, bail from a pocket every time and just rely on his athleticism because obviously teams have a number of years and tape on him. But as a leader, he's been tremendous for the Eagles. And that's the big thing for him, just being a leader and leading his guys in the battle and being able to rally the troops, so to speak. And he's just been impactful for not only the team but the city. The city is rallying behind Jalen Hurts and what he's been able to do. The changing the narrative on what the black quarterback should look like. It doesn't have to look like Lamar Jackson. He also doesn't have to look like Patrick Mahomes. And Hurts is doing it his own way and his own approach. And it works for the Eagles. It may not work for every other team in the NFL, but they rely a lot on him and his athleticism. But I think for him, it's going to be about continue to take steps as a passer, recognizing those blitz, those hot routes, and continuing to grow and evolve his game, as a passer and being able to take those calculated risks and knowing when to protect himself as well.
Yeah, and Devin, I've got two questions left for you. And the first one, my friend, is this: when you engage with Phillies fans or Eagles fans, what do you think is the biggest concern as the Phillies go into the playoffs and the Eagles start a new season? So what do you think is the biggest concern and the biggest reason for optimism? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, I'll start with the Phillies. I think the biggest concern is offense and the bottom of the lineup, specifically. You know what to expect from guys like Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, and Bryce Harper. They're going to get Alec Bohm, eventually get him back soon too, and hopefully he's riding a high into the playoffs. But can they get more production from JT Realmuto? Can they get production for in the outfield? Whether it's Brandon Marsh, Max Kepler. Guys like that, Nick Castellanos, like, can they get production from them? Harrison Bader, how are they going to fare in the playoffs? I think that's the biggest concern, Phillies wise. Biggest reason of optimism is their bullpen. The starting pitchers are fantastic. I think Jesus Luzardo is going to be kind of a bit wild card because he started off really hot and has kind of struggled a little bit here and there lately, but the starting pitching is a strength of this team, and they're gonna have to ride them into the playoffs. And hopefully you get Aaron Nola back healthy. What Zach Wheeler is going to do when he gets the ball in the playoffs. He's going to be consistent. Ranger Suarez, he's typically consistent. Christopher Sanchez has been a welcome, development and one of the best pitchers who did make the All-Star game this past year. So I think the pitching staff in general is the big reason for optimism because you need that starting pitching and the bullpen to be really strong to make a deep playoff run. And then for the Eagles side of things, I think the reason for Optimism is you have all your core players back. You have Saquon Barkley still. You have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. He's back on a short-term deal after seeming like they were going to trade or move on from him. Vic Fangio back too. He was an architect of a really dominant defense. You got Jalen Carter as kind of your centerpiece on the defensive line. So I think it'd be the big reason for optimism is having those core players back. And then the struggles that may come or reason to be a little concerned, like I alluded to earlier, was a DB2 spot. Who's going to play opposite Quinyon Mitchell, and who's going to start at that spot? And then I think the probably the most the least talked about aspect of the Eagles is how are they going to generate a pass rush now that Brendan Graham is gone. Nolan Smith is going to be counted on to take the next step. Jalex Hunt, same thing, last year's third round pick. But can Aziz Ojulari or Joshua Uche, can either of them provide some more juice off the edge? And I think that's going to be a big determining factor if the Eagles are dominant again. Because if you don't generate a pass rush, that second DB spot is going to be picked on, and obviously teams are not going to test Quinyon Mitchell as much after his stellar rookie year. But you need to have a secondary option at DB to be able to lock down his side, or at least be a serviceable starter. And right now it's a big question mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And Devin, my final question has to do with your opinion on how we can create more diversity in journalism and getting more African Americans in positions of leadership or prominence, and what approaches do you think that need to be adopted so that that can happen on a more regular basis? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, it's a loaded question, but one that obviously I've had experience with. But I think it just comes down to um, trusting people of color and African Americans in those positions, and being able to promote within, and allowing people to grow, specifically African Americans in journalism, allow them to have a say in what goes on, especially in the sports journalism aspect of things, where the majority of the players are African American or black. And you need to be able to have people in those spaces that understand and able to relate, but also understand the experience, and know how to handle some maybe some delicate issues, or the way that a player talks, or the way that their mannerisms are, or the way that they dress. I think there needs to be more diversity in that aspect, because you need to be able to have people from different walks of life be able to relate with a lot of the subjects that you're talking with and reporting on. And I think it's incredibly important to have not only people on the ground reporting those things, but people as decision makers to decide what things are worth reporting on. And I think that's super important, especially when you're in a city like Philadelphia that is predominantly black and African American. Same thing with Atlanta and Washington D.C. There are so many things that can be done better, I think, and I think part of it is just being able to have people, like me and you, be able to have those says and things like that, and be able to understand how important it is to have that experience, and have that relatability. And nothing is at least from my perspective, nothing is more satisfying than being able to report on something that is near and dear, close to your heart, and being able to truly understand the person across from you that you're interviewing, or in the media scrum with. So I think that's the big thing, is opening, just the people in charge, is opening their eyes and allowing, people to have their experiences be heard, and, really being able to be able to advocate with people in power that look like me and you, and be able to make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Devin Fowler, tell me if people want to get connected with you or read the stuff you're putting out, my friend. What's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, I work for the Philadelphia Inquirer as a sports editor and cover a lot of NFL draft and college football. So you can find me on inquirer.com, and I have an author page, Devin Jackson, and you can follow me on X at reald_Jackson. That's the two main places that you use. You can find my work or things that I report about or talk about. So those are the two main things.
Well, fabulous, my friend. I want to thank you for engaging in conversation about everything Philadelphia sports and for giving me a few minutes, my friend. It's most appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep doing this, man. This is awesome. Love what you're doing with this podcast, and just happy to be a part of it.